Hello everyone, my name is Wilson Pham and I'll be discussing about a young adult novel called Inanimate Alice. Now, Inanimate Alice is no ordinary young adult novel, it's a hybrid text as well as text all together to depict the story and illustrate the story to its readers. Now, Inanimate Alice starts off the story with Alice, who is 8 years old, and I'll be only discussing the 4 episodes out of the 10 that this novel is planning to make, and I'll be discussing about the themes of these 4 episodes and my own sensorial experiences of these episodes. Next, let's talk about episode 1 and 2. These 2 episodes are very similar, and I associate them with the theme of dependent on parents. Now, from reading, playing, and viewing the text and pictures of this novel when I first dived into it, my first impressions was like amazing, like I was at awe, because it helped me be able to relate to Alice's childhood with my own childhood. I saw her own childhood in ways where it was innocent and very dependent on her parents. One particular example that I wanted to talk about, it's actually when Alice, leaves the house on the Alps and she's in the snow and she's trying to find her ski school, but she couldn't and she fell, and then her parents found her on the way back home and helped her out and tried to comfort her with pizza. And and they seemed like having a good time, being a happy family and all that. There are more other examples as well from episode 1 where she becomes more dependent of her parents, but I choose that example in particular because it starts to show a very sharp contrast between episode 2 to 3, where she no longer becomes dependent on her parents. I find the games helping Alice picking her clothes, it helps her reflect her own, way of oh, she has to rush and pick out her clothes because it was almost time for her ski school, and she's trying to rush to get those clothes and be ready for her ski school. So these things I noticed that reflect my own childhood is because yeah, I used to depend on my parents a lot when I'm ever in trouble, such as Alice herself when she got outside of the Alps and fell down in the snow and no one was around to help her. So that's one thing. Oh, and also her own imaginary friend Brad. I mean, I feel like most kids when they're alone or they don't have much friends, they try to make friends in their minds, and I can also relate to that because I was a very lonely child. I never had much friends, but that was when I was a child, and but now I have many friends. All right, so I'm gonna move on next to episode 3, which is having the theme of coming of age story, where it starts out where Alice being 13 years old, and this is where the music and pictures and the choice of words really get in, play a huge role. Um, so an example of this is the word choices that were used within this episode. It was more refined. It was more it kind of reflected Alice's growth as she was growing from to the beginning when she was 8 years old to now, which is 13 years old. Is that she uses words like decrepit and flat to describe her own apartment in Russia. So that's what really kind of caught my eye. There's also another example where there's a lot of pictures shown when she was super excited going to school in Russia, and she's noticed that oh, there's boys, boys, boys everywhere, and that's at that age where she starts to be becoming more interested in boys. Um, so I find that very amazing. It kind of really played in that role where yeah, she is at that age where she's at that point where yeah, she understands what a relationship is and she wants to have a boyfriend in a sense, or at least have an idea of what that is. Um, and then another example, a very subtle example within this episode that I also caught my eye was in episode 3 where she called her parents by their names instead of she did in episode 1. She just calls them Ming and John, which kind of foreshadows what her relationship with her parents will be like from this point on. Next, I'll be talking about episode 4, which is the theme that I'm coming with is still coming of age. It starts off with Alice where she's dared by her friends to go on top of a building, but stairs collapse, and then it immediately cuts out to a flashback to where before all of this happened. The flashbacks provide like context and such where she actually made friends, real friends, which is how and because she was able to go to school now, quote unquote, like a normal kid. She sees herself being by going to school. She sees herself as a normal kid, which is very interesting. She like makes this like certain perspective or perception of what a normal kid is. But back to the flashback where she actually starts making real friends in school, she builds like she notices that yeah, I have real friends now, and so now I don't have need these inanimate characters, quote unquote, where she points that out that she creates inanimate characters as her friends, such as Brad.